How is it possible for an RAF serviceman to disappear and it receive barely any news coverage? On the 23rd of September, Corrie McKeague, a young RAF gunner, was enjoying a Friday night out with his colleagues. He hit the town in Bury St Edmunds at the end of his weekly duties and was in high spirits when he joined his friends at a local club. The young serviceman left well before closing time. He'd had a couple of drinks and he headed for something to eat. But despite saying to friends that he planned to walk the 9 miles back to his RAF base, Corrie never turned up. He was seen on CCTV in the early hours, yet his whereabouts remain a complete mystery. Extensive land and air searches have found no trace of the serviceman, but his family believe someone will have information that could help. Corrie's mother, Nicola Urquhart, and uncle, Tony Ring, told us they're desperate for that help.
On Friday, the 23rd of September, Corrie went out with his friends from 2 Squadron at RAF Honington. They'd just gone out for a night out. It wasn't an occasion. Just after 1 o'clock, Corrie had left a nightclub called Flex, and he's seen on CCTV. He left on his own. He walked along to a local takeaway shop and got himself a takeaway. When he was in the takeaway, he was in a good mood. He was playing rock, paper, scissors with a man that he didn't know in the shop. He took his takeaway out, and there's been CCTV shown of Corrie shown on the news. That's Corrie when he's got his takeaway and he's walking down to somewhere where he could sit and eat his takeaway. He sat down in a shop doorway, I think it's called Hughes, and he started to eat his food, and he's then fallen asleep for 2 hours, or just about 2 hours. That can be seen on CCTV. He then wakes up. He had been talking to his brother on the phone and a couple of other friends as well, just before he'd gone out that night. And one of his friends, he'd asked for a photograph. It was just of them on another night out. When he woke up at 3 o'clock, about 3 o'clock, he then forwarded that photo on to another friend. So to me, it shows that he was aware of time and place, that he's then walked just a few yards. You can see him on CCTV. He has had a drink, but he's just slept for 2 hours. He then walks down a street, and it's in an area called Brent Groville Street. It's behind shops. It's a dead end. It doesn't go anywhere. It's the back of the shops where they would get their deliveries, in effectively what is a triangle of shops. You see him absolutely clearly walk in there at 03:24, and you never see him come back out again. The police have got so much CCTV, they've still not been able to watch it all. There is so much. But Corrie's not done anything wrong. He's not trying to evade CCTV. You can see him walking straight down the road. So it doesn't make sense that you don't see him come back out again. They've widened the parameter to look further out, just in case, because it is on a time lapse, so there is the opportunity that perhaps one camera has missed him.
Yes.
So they've widened it, and they've got private CCTV as well as all the council CCTV, and not one single image of Corrie. He's wearing a pink shirt and white trousers. Even though it's, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, he really stands out in the dark.
Tony, what are the possible explanations as far as the family is concerned then?
I think before I mention what they are, I think one of the immediately reported possibilities was linked to an incident that had happened a couple of weeks prior, about 20 miles north at another base, an RAF base near Marham, where there was an attempted abduction linked to terrorism of a serviceman. Now, that failed. That's obviously still an active inquiry, and so obviously there was immediately speculation that this may be linked to that. The police assessment is that this is not related to terrorism. Now, I have a background in counter-terrorism. I concur with that. But that's only on one single item of evidence or lack of, which is the fact that nobody's been in touch. And typically a terrorist organisation seeks publicity. So that's the only reason why that's being discounted as an option. But clearly we must consider all possibilities. That aside, I think it leaves us three possibilities. One is that Corrie's disappeared through choice. Another is that Corrie has disappeared against his will. And the third one, obviously, is the one we don't want to contemplate, but is a possibility, which is through whatever means, he's dead. And if you look at those three possibilities, the one of disappearance by choice, again, the way we've used the evidence to dismiss or reduce the probability of a terrorism involvement, we've used that same logic to really dismiss the likelihood of him going through choice. There's no preparatory evidence of him being ready to depart through getting money prepared and so on. The time of year, or rather the time of the month that he's gone, doesn't make sense. He's not been paid yet. So there's no preparatory activity. There's no obvious motivating factor that would make him suddenly decide to disappear, which only then leaves us those two remaining options. If he's got into a vehicle, which is possible because of the CCTV coverage, the police have looked at the rotation cycles and what have you. It's possible that a vehicle could have obscured his exit from where he was, but it would have taken a vehicle. And probably for him to be in it, but we don't know that for certain. It's one of those open items. And the appeal there is, if you gave him a lift for whatever reasons, and obviously you're now seeing the media, we need to know. We need to know where you might have taken him. And the third option is something the police are working on right now, which is the search activity in the local area. It's a rural setting, so it's a wide area, it's a significant perimeter, and they're using their own resources and a local voluntary crew, but they are limited resources. And I think that where we do now have an opportunity is through the RAF and the nearby army garrisons in Aldershot. We've got expert search resources there that we could bring to bear to start covering that wide area.
Nicola, do you think Corrie got into someone's vehicle?
It genuinely is something that Corrie would do.
Right.
If you were talking about my other sons, McKeague and Derbyshire, they would be more risk averse. They would think something like that through, and they wouldn't do it. But with Corrie, he would make an informed choice. But with Corrie, if he saw somebody walking down the road and he was in his car, he would stop and give that complete stranger a lift. Whereas the other boys, they would think, no,
yes,
you don't know who it is. So
when was the last time his mobile was used?
His mobile phone was used at 3:08 to send that picture
That
message.
was the last time?
That was the last
Okay.
time he physically used it.
Right.
They've done, obviously, an awful lot amount of work in trying to track his phone. But that was the last time he physically used it, so we know he still had his phone when he woke up, because it was part of an earlier conversation. The way that Tony would be able to explain it far better than I could, but the way that they've triangulated his phone, it's from, say, Facebook updating or other apps updating as opposed to him actually using it. And they know that it's left the area Corrie was seen going into, and they know that it's taken 28 minutes to get from there to an area called Barton Mills, which is a big roundabout, and that's how long it would take to drive. So they know that it's not the case that he's walked. When it's got to Barton Mills area, it could have turned itself off. It's just run out of battery. It could have been damaged. There's so many reasons why it could have just stopped working, and it's never been picked up by another antenna anywhere. So it could have gone further than that area, but that's the last area that they know that it worked.
Is it your belief that he is still alive?
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, so many people have asked me that question, and absolutely the thought that he's going to come back in weeks saying, "You will not believe what's just happened to me," that's Corrie.
But you need people to come forward.
We do. Somebody does know something. You know, it is absolutely, nobody can just disappear. I know that. I know that as a police officer. I know that you don't have any evidence, and there is nothing. So, you know, we're doing letter drops. The public of England, it's not just, it's everywhere. Getting behind a page that we've got 30,000 people following it and desperate to help. And so they're helping us deliver leaflets, and Corrie's face is everywhere in Bury and the surrounding area. But nothing, not one person can give us anything, and that just doesn't make sense.
No.